Trump calls starstruck podcaster a beauty. When he reminds Trump, you complimented my face. In all seriousness, I can't believe they actually wrote this. It's the silliest thing ever. It was the first 3 seconds and it lasted a second.
It's also incorrect. Like this article has mistakes in it, which I think is kind of funny.
Yeah, this is really funny. They say, what is it like? The wide, where does it mention?
They're saying like the wide-ranging interview will last almost 17 minutes, but it kicked off with Trump causing a noticeable shift in the show's atmosphere as co-host Hannah Claire thank you for getting my double name right. That's nice. Caught a glimpse of him entering and offered a stunned greeting. That's not true at all. We recorded in the morning, several hours apart. I sign off the show pretty regularly, you guys know, by saying, bye, Serge, or hi, Serge. And when Serge is not in camera view, I had switched it the night before. I said, bye, Tim. And as a joke, because I knew you were going to cut the interview in, I was like, hi, President Trump. But I just have to clarify for media, if any of your reporters are listening, like, you got this totally wrong. Perhaps
they're different rooms. Or it's the same room, a totally different lighting.
Totally, hours apart.
Yeah. So Trump was supposed to come in at, we were told 7 o'clock. We'd sit down for half an hour. He was running late. Totally get it. And we were able to get about 17 minutes. But some of the big news that actually came out, we have this. Trump suggests he'll give immunity to police to carry out mass deportations of illegal immigrants. We have no choice. He didn't necessarily tie immunity to mass deportations. He said, we have to restore immunity for police. And he said, we will use local police to carry out the mass deportations. I thought this was one of the most important because Trump has said he's going to engage in the largest mass deportation effort in history. He mentioned, I think it was it Eisenhower?
Yeah, Operation Wetback.
Yeah. What a crazy name for an operation back in the day. And well, the issue is how do you engage in a large deportation without expansion of the federal government, without either putting a lot of money into federal authorities to carry out these deportations or spending tons of money on vehicles, trains, cars. He said local police will do it. Now, I don't know if that gives us enough information as to how it really goes down, but the idea of local police, that's going to mean the federal government will have to provide funding to all of these local police departments, a mass refunding of the police. Now, of course, a lot of people are saying, most people are saying, great interview. We're glad these questions got asked, talking about the mass deportations, ending the wars, pardoning Assange, things like that. But of course, there are some people saying, why didn't you ask this? Why didn't you push back on that? Because I was told I had 15 minutes to ask my questions. So I'm not going to spend 20 minutes arguing with the president over what he means when he says something. When I asked him how he would carry this out, and he said, we're going to, the police, they got to protect our police officers. And then I said, but I asked again, how do you do it? He said, police officers, when I asked about the prosecution of Fauci, he explained, Fauci wasn't that big of a deal and he shut down gain-of-function research. I said, but will there be accountability? To which he said yes. So I don't know that. And he said that he would give very serious consideration to pardoning Julian Assange. I got to be honest, when he answered that, I thought it was kind of a wishy-washy, we'll see kind of answer that didn't really matter, but it made the headlines anyway.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's challenging to do an interview with limited time, and you have to kind of hit the most important topics. Like you're saying, if you had spent the whole time being like, well, let's go into extreme detail on this one issue, you wouldn't have gotten the broad range. I liked watching this interview because, again, just to clarify, I was not there. I did not meet Trump. But in the background, you can hear that the convention is going on. Like you can hear the cheering and booing, and that was,
I do think it's funny that they thought you were sitting there and Trump walked in. You went, hi, Trump.
They think that Trump just wandered into our podcast. Like, that's the most bizarre take I've ever heard. Do you think Secret Service was just like, okay, podcasters, stay calm. We're going to bring, no. I'm sorry for confusing you guys, I guess. But, I think that there are a lot of questions that Trump is going to face, going through November. I'm sure you've had to clarify some of these things too, Gavin, where we have people who want something really badly, and it is difficult for him to take a firm stance on. Like, I think about his response, again, during his first town hall that CNN hosted, when he said, I'm going to look into what happened with all of the January 6th political prisoners. That's my editorial take. And we're going to review their cases, and as many of them as we can pardon or let go, we are going to do it. But I think it's fair for him to say, I have to look into this thing. If he just told you what you wanted to hear all the time, he'd be, probably not the politician that we need.
Yeah, I've heard from a decent amount of people that his answers are a lot of what we already knew, but a little bit further in some areas.
I feel like the whole entire campaign, both sides, it's I don't feel like there's going to be any kind of ground broken. So I feel like any interviews and stuff that you get with, whether it be with Trump or Biden, I think the most news that you're going to get out of them is if Biden has a gaffe, or Biden has, does something ridiculous. Otherwise, everyone kind of knows that Trump is going to be able to get through whatever kind of interviews you have. He's going to be Trumpy. He's going to be himself. He's going to do the same things that he did for the 4 years that he was the president. And Biden, if he does any interviews, which I would like to see more clearly, because I think that only raises the chances of him making a mistake. But I think that would be the only news that's really kind of in the cards, or at least that's what I think that people kind of have resided themselves to.
I'm just happy that we've normalized mass deportations. I mean, 10, 15 years ago, having a major presidential candidate saying he wants to initiate mass deportations, utilizing, local police officers, that would be a radical position. The Overton window has shifted so far in such a short period of time that now we're here talking about, like, well, is he really going to just use local police to deport them all, or is he going to build out a federal bureaucracy? Okay, I mean, I like that that's the discussion. I like that that's the point of contention, is how he's going to do the mass deportation, or rather than are we going to have it or not. So, silver linings, taking these things with a grain of salt.
When are we getting Biden on the podcast, Tim?
Yeah, right. We had RFK Jr. and Donald Trump. Tremendous respect to RFK Jr. for
Chase,
sitting down
you're going
for
to
2
get
hours.
Chase. What's his name? The Libertarian guy?
Chase Oliver. I think that'd be a fantastic episode, actually. But it really depends, because, I was thinking about this. You get this guy who's basically like an Antifa leftist, and the Libertarian Party is in it's been in civil war with itself for years, and a lot of the most prominent, high-profile individuals are rejecting Chase Oliver outright. So I don't know if I view him as a legitimate a voice of the Libertarian Party, and so the question is, would I have him on in any other circumstance? Well, he's not a particularly prominent individual. I don't know what he necessarily adds. Now that he is the nominee, there is the reasonable, well, sure, why wouldn't we have him on the show? What we try to do with guests on this show is it's not about having the biggest follower count in the world. It's about being an active political commentator. And so we get a lot of people who are like, hey, I know somebody who's like a research scientist in, metals or whatever. And it's like, can they comment on the news? Because we are a topical news commentary show. And it's like, no. And it's like, well, then maybe the Culture War is better, because that's why we set that show up in the first place. So Culture War Friday mornings. If we were going to have him on, it probably would make more sense on the Culture War, now that he is a Libertarian nominee. But I also, I feel, man, with the Libertarian Party, they really just took a dump on the floor. I don't know how else to put it.
I would like to see us get Jeremy Kaufman much more than I would like to see.
Well, he's been on the
Chase.
show before.
Jeremy Kaufman?
Yeah.
Okay.
And we could, how about we have him and Chase on the Culture War?
That would be hilarious. I'll reach out to Lisa and try and set that up myself. That'd be great.
The other big thing that came out of the Trump interview, of course, is the prosecuting Fauci and many other people. I want to clarify something too, because being strapped for time in this interview, you don't really get a lot of time to break things down. When I said one of the Libertarian presidential nominees said he wants to see Fauci, the heads of Moderna, Pfizer, Biden, and you locked up for what happened during COVID, I don't agree with them, but there is a big sentiment. Elon Musk tweeted, prosecute Fauci. Fauci lied to Congress about gain-of-function research that was going on. Trump then jumps in. I'll clarify. I don't agree that Donald Trump himself should be prosecuted. And for this case in particular, I'm not so sure Biden either. But Fauci lied to Congress. He lied to Rand Paul. It was the most ridiculous testimony I've ever heard, where he's like, were you funding gain-of-function research? No. We were just funding research into viruses that made them more, virulent and enhanced their abilities. And then Rand's like, which is the little definition of gain-of-function research? No. And so this guy needs to be prosecuted. Trump's response was, he jumps in, he says, I stopped Fauci, or Fauci didn't really wasn't a big player in my administration, and I'm the one who shut down gain-of-function. I said, will there be accountability for the lying to Congress when you get to appoint your new AG? And Trump said, yeah, we'll take a look at statute of limitations, because the statute of limitations are quite long. I feel like the challenge with this is, if someone were to ask me, like if I was running for office and someone said, actually, I'll put it this way. If you're going to engage in a legal battle, you never publicly announce it before you do. This is the challenge that Trump faces, because a lot of people are saying, I want Trump to outright say, we will prosecute these people, giving them advance warning to start destroying documents and getting their lawyers, and you can't do it. So everybody wants to know that he will, but how does he answer that without sending a signal? You know what I mean?
And it can't seem political, obviously. But listen, I mean, I think the sentiment is the right place. We need to bring some reciprocity back to the system. We're talking about this case in New York. We're talking about all these federal cases, this political lawfare. I mean, this is not going to stop until the left recognizes that it could happen to them. And up until now, they've operated with impunity, and they've thought, we don't have to deal with these types of things. The right are too weak. They're too, cowardly to dare, hold us accountable for our many, transgressions and crimes, or at least be, reciprocal in how we, dole out the lawfare. I think, I agree with you. Don't talk specifics. Don't give them an ability to, wipe out their computers and all the rest. But I think we're never going to advance as a country until we return to that reciprocity, because right now it's open political warfare, but it's only coming from one side to the other rather than back and forth. It'll stop overnight the second they realize that they can be held to account.
Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.